What up, what up? It's Trav. Haven't been on here for quite a while. I don't even know if I can remember how to do chats. It's all good, I guess. Anyway, it's been a minute. So, I haven't thought about or had the urge to make any YouTube videos for quite a while. In case y'all don't know, I'm Trav. I got a Facebook group for over a year now called God Based Recovery. I think I put the link to the group in the title. It's what it sounds like. Um, it's filled with a bunch of awesome, amazing people that are all recovering from one thing or another in their lives, be it drugs and alcohol, and then other aspects of their lives, character defects, how to be a better mom and dad, friend, brother, coworker, just a better person in general. Um, after after the drugs and alcohol stop, um, there's many more areas of your life that you'd want to work on and to improve. At least for me personally, it didn't just stop with the drugs and the alcohol. Um, it gave me the chance to, you know, improve other aspects of my life. Um, and in this group, which I invite everybody to that sees this, um, I do live testimonies with members of the group. They're called On the Spot. There's a bunch that's pinned in the featured section at the top of the group page. Just did a one with my brother the other night. Second one, actually, he did one last year on July 4th. But a lot of stuff has changed since then. He's been through a lot more and has grown. So testimonies evolve. If you're still sharing the same testimony you did a year or 2 years ago, 5 years ago, if you're still saying the same stuff, to me that's being stagnant, and I can't have that. Um, Recovery for me evolved into more of a pathway to self discovery, who I am, who I'm meant to be without the drugs and the alcohol, without the excuses, without the resentment, guilt, regret, shame, all the past stuff, childhood trauma, abandonment, so be it. So I had to figure out a way to like stop chasing recovery and start walking the path of self discovery. Who I'm meant to be, good, bad, ugly, and everything in between. Who I was made to be in God's image, who He created me to be, and I think everybody should seek that. Just because you haven't done drugs and alcohol for a few years doesn't necessarily mean that we're better people. The instant gratification, the validation highs we seek, um, the ego is all really still there. The addictive mindset and personality can still be there and persist. It's just that now we feel like we're doing healthy, positive, proactive things. Um, Many of us, I'm saying myself included at the forefront, wore a mask of recovery for a long time, which means that I was trying to recover and sustain from drugs and alcohol vicariously through other people, through their stories, through the program, through the tables, through the meetings, and all that. As soon as I got a few pats on the back, a couple attaboys, a couple hits of that validation high, I just stuck with that because I figured if whatever I'm sharing and talking about is helping somebody else, then I must be getting better myself. I don't have a whole lot to work on because you know, I'm helping other people by what I'm sharing. They're saying so. So after we get off the drugs and the alcohol, there's this invisible dope called validation. And once you get a taste of that, it replaces the high or the drunk or buzz of the bottle, the bag or pipe or whatever. And we start chasing that and we instantly think, well, heck, this is okay. I'm being used for something better. My sob stories, my sordid past is helping somebody else, feel better and gain confidence and stuff towards bettering themselves. That's awesome. And we could even think that it is a good thing, to be honest with you. But when we start relying on that, becomes the tricky thing. Because then we start going to meetings and sharing stories and stuff like that just to get that same hit back. Just for somebody to say, hey, thanks for sharing, man. That's awesome. That really helped me out. That story resonates with me. I can relate. It gives me the confidence to kind of like seek better treatment and help for myself. Really appreciate you. And that feels good. That's gratifying. And it validates our ego into thinking like, you know, I was miserable in addiction, but still thought I couldn't get caught, still thought every lie would pass, didn't think the cops would get me, didn't think I would get kicked out of the house or fired from work, and maybe we just kind of like, well, I just got tired of being tired, so I walked into recovery all on my own. It didn't take some unfortunate event to get me there. And so that addictive ego just withers and transforms us right into the recovery ego. And all we need is to be like, hey, I'm not doing drugs and alcohol anymore, so that's good. I got my job back, everything's fine. Me and the wife worked things out. I've been sharing some stuff at these meetings. Yeah, I got about 3 weeks in, but somebody said they really appreciate what I said that helped them out. So that's the chase of recovery. It becomes this wide road where we go to meetings, we sit in rehab or whatever, or shoot live videos, and we just talk about ourselves, and we kind of not necessarily glorify the stories or anything, but sometimes we can start to exaggerate, because even the exaggeration of our stories gets justified. Because if I add just a little bit of exaggeration onto my story, that's okay, because it's going to resonate with somebody all the more. And as long as they can relate to it and they get something more out of it, it doesn't matter if it's the part that I lied about or not, because it's going to make them better. Then that all starts wearing off. Then you sit around the tables and you're sharing, you're pouring out, you're exaggerating 50% of your shares now, maybe more. Maybe sometimes you just sit there and make up a whole story. A whole share is made up and nobody's responded. Nobody claps or pats you on the back anymore. So now what's going on? Because we were getting by on that validation high. So now we sit there and we wonder, well, shoot, man, what do I got to share to get that first hit of validation back? Man, I better think of something. I just told a really good lie, but this lie wasn't as bad as when I lied to my addiction, because I was trying to get something for me. I was trying to get by. I was lying to my dealer, saying I could pay him Friday when I didn't have no money coming in. Lied to my wife while I was 3 hours late from work because, I just wanted to go out and get high for a few hours with the boys and said I had to work over. Those are all selfish lies. Now we tell these selfless lies in recovery because we think it's going to help somebody else, and it just sits there. It just falls flat. It falls on deaf ears. And that creates these instantaneous triggers, man. We start resenting that, and it's us that's causing it. But now we get mad at the people because, well, you're not responding and reacting to the same way, in the same way that you did when I was sharing all this stuff, a few weeks ago or a month or so ago. What's wrong with you? Don't you care about your recovery? Why are you tuning out? You're unfocused. You don't care about this. All the while, it's deflection. It's just us. We stopped going for bettering ourselves. We just want to say something to help somebody else because that's good enough. That becomes our recovery. So we start resenting and acting out and getting frustrated and take that home. And now we're a little bit on edge and we throw eggshells down for everybody to walk on. And man, it starts feeling like it did right before we went back out the last time. I was getting pats on the backs and attaboys from the kids and my boss and the wife, and now they're kind of looking at me with the side eyes and wondering what's wrong and scared to ask and know that I'm moody and all this stuff, and it's because I came home from a meeting. Supposed to come home from the meetings in a better state of mind. Now she sees me coming home all the time with my head down. I'm kind of frowning, Don't want to talk about it. It's okay. That's those people. They're ungrateful. They don't care about what I share. They're not in it. They're not doing it for themselves. And it's all us. Then you have a big blow up. You have a big fight. You have a bad day at work. You know what I mean? You get asked something that puts you on edge and you respond very aggressively or threateningly. And now you're out. Now you're out of the house again. Now you're sitting at the bar. Now you're calling your ex-buddy, or you're still using buddy and wanting to numb out for the day. Because this is BS. You did all you can for people. You were recovering right and left. You got a couple coins. The wife don't understand it. Why is everybody treating me, different now? Why are they taking me for granted? And all the while, you weren't working on your recovery at all. There wasn't nothing you were doing for yourself. We were trying to recover vicariously through the validation of other people. And I got tired of doing that. Because that's what I did. I realized it eventually. Finally. So I said, there's got to be something more than this chasing your recovery like you chase your drugs and alcohol. It's exhausting. It leads to a dead end. What I decided to do was look for something beyond that. Like, what provides all this recovery? All the detox centers, all the rehabs, all the preambles, tradition, and steps, and meeting halls, and all the A's. What provides all that? And that's God. That's the common denominator and the supreme solution. Any way you're getting recovery, it's God provided. My recovery is God based. Through Him, I can find all the answers if I'm willing, ready, and able to do it selfishly for myself. I'm not going to be able to do nothing for nobody else until I take care of myself. Just because I share something with you that might help your life and get you onto something, turn something on, and you're good, awesome. That's still not going to benefit me in my personal life and my recovery. I'm just glad I was able to play a part. But the main difference is, instead of me wanting to say something to you to help you along your path, your journey, whatever you're chasing or walking after, that's got to be enough just to offer truth. No glorifying the past, no exaggerating, not wanting to say it for any other reason than for it to just be truthful. Then God could come in and take that and do with it what He wants done with it for His glory, for Him to benefit somebody else, not us. It doesn't like, hey, did that help you out? Cool, you're welcome. I'll have something for you tomorrow night. Hey, do one of these things like Newsom, like that. We just gotta recover one day at a time. You know what I mean? Like this, and whatever. Let's get that started. The Newsom. Anyway, I don't know why that guy's doing that. Feedback frenzy, but I'm just saying, whatever works for everybody works for everybody. What worked for me was when I stopped trying to find things that work for me, and I let God work for me. I stopped using God and let God use me. I stopped using God, asking and begging God to get me out of situations, and then ghost them when I started getting the validation from people around the tables. Like, oh, I got it from here. Thanks. I see what you're trying to do. So-and-so said thanks, so I'll take that. Probably proud of me, huh? I'm sure I'm being favored helping this person. Doing the work, servant work, service work, all that, I was like, man, he did it again. All for me. Validation is never going to help you recover in any way, shape, or form. It's only just, it's a active addiction timeout is what it is. And it leads you right back to it, because once that validation high runs out and wears off, you got to go right back to what you were doing before. And I realize this. So there's no chasing recovery for me. There's walking with Christ. And what that means is I don't do drugs and alcohol anymore. He's removed and healed some parts of me that I always use as excuses to do the drugs and the alcohol, thinking that was the solution. Something happened to me when I was 9 years old. Something reminded me of it 5 weeks ago or so. So I got to go out and drink and drug now. So all the trauma, all the bad stuff that happened to us in the past, the abuse and all this other stuff, it's painful, it hurts, and it haunts us. But what us addicts do, and what that devil does, because addiction is really a form of oppression and possession, more so than a disease. But I digress. It is a diseasement, but and a disconnection from God. But calling addiction a disease gives addicts like me a loophole. I'm like, well, shoot, if it's a disease and diseases can come back, like cancer and stuff like that, if I have a bad day, who's going to be able to blame me? Because, hey, I got a disease. Everybody that's got a disease up in the hospitals got flowers and teddy bears and stuff. They get loved on and supported. You got to love this addict now. Oh, boy. And so that's what I would always kind of keep in the back of my mind. I'm like, well, that's an out for another day. That's a rainy day out. They're gonna have to be able to accept me and not blame me and keep loving me. So all that stuff I had to give up, man. All this stuff that held us down, that kept us in bondage, that got us comfortable with those strongholds. I'm telling you, we start using them as excuses to continue our bad, immature, and selfish behavior. We just do. The only way that we can ever let the past go is by owning it, owning our parts in it. And what I mean is, there's situations where everybody's been an innocent victim. When you couldn't defend yourself, when you were just taken advantage of, when you couldn't fight back, when you didn't have a voice, and you were in positions and situations and circumstances that you were just the victim, victimized, abused, etc. Totally understand that. It's happened to probably all of us. But what happens at a certain age, and we don't even realize this, is that stuff's too hard to think about. It's too much to be reminded of and flash back to. And here's a song that reminds us, or a movie of us. Oh man, that's tough to hear about. Even somebody else's sharing testimony could be like, oh, that's just, I don't want to think about that. That happened to me, right? We could shut down real quick. What we haven't let go of to let God heal us of will always be our subconscious triggers. They're already in us. It's not what somebody else says or does, or what a movie or song reminds us of. It's still in there. Well, how do you get rid of that? How do you heal? What do? You talk about it as honestly as you possibly can. And I don't even mean to a person. I mean just out loud. That is a living prayer. That is a verbal admission of will that we give to God. And once he hears that, because he knows what's on our hearts. He knows what's written in here. He knows the pain. He knows the struggle. All that stuff. He knows the abuse. I'm telling you this as a fact. Our pasts aren't ours to keep hold of. They've always held us back, down, drug us down and under in some instances. If we're still alive today, that is the most gratifying thing that you could ever experience. When you wake up in the morning, because you have a chance. And here's what you do with this. You say to yourself, I was absolutely victimized as a kid, as a child, as a whatever. And you know 100% that you were. You start victimizing yourself at a certain point, because what happened to us becomes a barrier and a guard and a defense. It becomes an unhealthy boundary we put up in front of other people, and be like, don't stress me out, don't give me anxiety, don't mess with my emotions, don't say that, because that hurts. That reminds me of unhealed trauma. I don't want to hear it. Don't say it. It's your fault. Now you said it. Now I got to go use. We start victimizing ourselves when we keep using our past our victim status, legitly, as excuses to continue our bad behavior and selfish ways in our addiction. The way to get rid of it is this: you sit by yourself in your car, in a room by yourself. Maybe look into a mirror, whatever. You don't have to have a phone. You don't have to have the mirror. You just speak out every bit of pain and trauma and unhealedness that you could think of, and you speak it out. What you're doing literally, whether you believe it or not, I do. And I'm not going to waste my time saying this if I don't believe it and know it. It's a fact because it's worked for me. Once you share all this out and you don't add nothing to it, you don't hold nothing back, you pour your heart out. If you had any bad thing happen to you at a young age, in your teen years, whatever, and it might be a lot, you start with one incident, then go to the next one, and then go to the next one, and just speak out everything that you can remember. You're going to cry, you're going to scream, you're going to punch the bed and this and this and the other. Get it all out. Here's what's happened. Here's what's going to happen. Once you do that honestly, and you speak about it, and you do it as truthfully as possible, to the best of your ability, it's just you and God. And remember, God already knows every bit of it. And you might still blame God for not protecting you from it, but here comes the plot twist. You speak all this out. You say, this guy with this big tooth and beard and Yankees hat on this video told me to do this, God. This is probably dumb, but I'm going to do it anyway. Good for you. Once you speak all that out, no matter what you believe, whatever level of faith you have, God hears you. And when he hears you saying that, that's his key. That's the signal to him that you're giving your will to this certain situation, this traumatic event. You're speaking it out. You're speaking your will out verbally in this live prayer. He takes that. He heals you. He heals that part of your heart. There's a lot of stuff in there. If only one thing's ever happened to us, that's still horrible. But I mean, one thing is better than 10, 20, 30 things, whatever. But he'll heal that one part that you're speaking about as truthfully as you can remember everything. No exaggeration, no lie, nothing held back. God hears your heart being spoken. He takes that as like, okay, this person's giving me this. He heals it. He reverses it. And then he allows you, and it's a requirement, to then speak about it truthfully, honestly, the complete thing, to somebody else eventually, so the same thing can be done by them, for them. Your trauma, your past, your victimhood, your abuse, all of that. If you woke up today, you have the opportunity to be healed and have it removed and replaced as somebody else's story to hear. Your testimony. Your pain is now your testimony for somebody else to hear, so they can start the healing process the same way. So you do that once, you feel a little bit better. You tell God the next story. Here's something else that happened a couple years later. This might be even worse than the first one. Whatever, do it in a timeline form. Just always do it truthfully, as much as you possibly can remember. Get it all out. You're gonna feel the emotions. That's pain leaving the body. God's son experienced more pain than any of us possibly could. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, all that. And I understand. Once you're saying this out loud, you're giving up the ghost of the past, so to speak, right? And God loves us for it. He wants to protect us, not only just you now, but here's the thing. If something happened to you and you share that out and God heals it, removes it, replaces it with testimony for somebody else, he's turned your pain into healing for somebody else. Then you realize, oh my gosh, I feel better. That's awesome. But this isn't even about me. All the stuff that happened to me personally isn't even about me anymore. It's for me to talk about, so maybe 2 other people, or 2,000, or 2 million, who knows, can hear the transformative moment, the healing process, so they all can feel that and experience too. One person's victimhood becomes the heroic story for somebody else once they hear how to do it and how it's done. And I'm telling you this as I'm alive and breathing today. That is an absolute fact. I've lived it. I've done it. I've experienced it. I've felt it. I've seen it happen for other people. It is a real powerful thing. There's power in words and prayer. And I know there's a difference between sitting there and be like, well, God knows. He knows all that. I ain't got to say all that. He just won't heal me. He needs you to give it up. He needs your will to be given. When you speak that out, that's you giving up your will for that specific situation for God to be like, here we go. And you feel lighter. Your burden has been lessened. That's how you truly bear your cross. So then you got another story and another story and another horrible moment that happened in your life. Who knows what it is? Any traumatic, violent scene we saw, we got put through, whatever, you speak about it out loud. God hears it. He hears your heart, but when he hears your words matching what your heart says, that's our verbal will and our signal, and cue to God for him to come in, because we've given this to him. We've given him permission. We allowed him to take this stuff, heal us from it, remove it, turn it into a 180, and he says, now speak this to everyone else. And we can speak about it more confidently, with less emotion, more boldly, so somebody else can hear it and be like, holy cow, they really said that? That all happened to them? They're not crying, they're not babbling, they're not, losing it. They don't look like they're on the verge of going back out there. How could they share that? Because of God. Because remember the first time you spoke it, waterworks, snot, wetness all over the shirt and stuff like that. So you speak about it more, and you become more confident, more healed yourself. But what you're doing, more importantly, because it's about numbers for God's kingdom. Now that you're good, now that God's got you, allow other people to get that same experience. So when someone hears you say something that's exactly what they went through, and they see you saying it stoically, confidently, you might still get a little bit teary-eyed, of course, but they see you in control of your emotions, and they can't believe that you could say all this stuff. You're not ashamed. You're not embarrassed. And they know it's real, and they know it's true. What that shows them is the power of God. And they want to be able to feel that too. And it takes you sharing your story, what happened to you when you were 7 years old, when you spoke it out. It was just you and God healed that, turned it around, put it back in you, and said, hey, now your past isn't yours anymore. You are detached from your past. You are no longer a victim. You are a co-worker for Christ, and your job today is to tell somebody this story that you told me. And they hear it, and they go, and they experience and feel and live the same thing that you're now living, when you thought you could never do something like that, and you also thought this isn't going to work, and you kept relying on yourself, not wanting to burden nobody with it. Nobody wants to listen. Nobody cares. God does. It only takes you, truth, and God to feel and experience that transformation. And once you do, you are required to tell it again to somebody else, to somebody else, to somebody else. I'm telling you, it's a fact of life. And it's a real thing. It's happened. It will continue to happen. And here's the thing for all the validation chasers. There's nothing more validating. It's righteous validation. Okay? Because you know it's not for you. You've already got your validation. your eternal validation when God healed you from this that you've shared out. Now there ain't no validation to seek. Once you feel God's presence in the Holy Spirit and you know that He's healed and removed something from you that always tore you down and was sending you straight to hell and having you manipulate, deceive, and lie to other people to get what you wanted to get on a daily basis, and you share that out and you say, well, this is what happened to me 18 years ago that keeps making me this way today, and you feel the healing from it. There's no validation from another person to seek. It's a waste of time. God don't work like that. Once you know what God's done for you, you speak your living testimony out as it evolves. And if somebody comes up to you and says, man, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. How'd you do that so confidently and boldly? I'm all crying, and you're not. And you know, just say, God. You could say, hey, I was the first time I did it. But that was just pain and trauma leaving the body. Now we have healing in our eyes and faces. That's what we're showing them. And it's with compassion. We don't mock or embarrass a person who's crying because they're sharing something of their own, or crying because you shared something that resonated and they related to. We were there. Jesus wept. So when they thank you for sharing that, you say, hey, you're welcome. Most importantly, God put me in a position to be able to share this because He healed it from me. And I'm glad you got to hear it. Now, please continue this, pass it on. The validation's not for me. I'm removed from the world of validation. You seek it no more once you are healed. But as addicts, with personalities and mindsets and tendencies, gratification seekers, which we all can be, the drugs and alcohol shut off, but our personalities aren't, our character traits aren't. The gratification for me comes in, what's God got next? What's He gonna do next for me? But more importantly, so I can share it with everybody else. That's what I love. I'm always in the moment. I'm always present for the most part. Sometimes I'm human. I can still get in my head a little bit and miss some blessings and opportunities God's putting in my way. But He knows that I seek Him as constantly and persistently as possible. I don't want to miss a thing, as Steven Tyler once said. So when He puts somebody in my path, and I know it's for a specific reason, because sometimes people just pop up and you're like, oh, what's up? You know it happens to all of us. Sometimes there's a really big reason for that. Always keep your eyes open and mind open to that possibility. Some people, you just like, hey, what's up? I ain't seen you in a while, and it's okay. If you get a little bit of an extra sense of like, oh, didn't we just talk about this dude the other day? Now here he is. I ain't seen him in how long? Something else is going on. Don't be afraid of that. That's God putting you and somebody else in each other's paths for a reason God's yet to reveal, because of His purpose, His plan, and His calling on your life and the other person's life. And know this. All you got to do is be willing, ready, and able. You don't have to think of nothing. You don't have to plan nothing. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? What am I going to show this person? You just be ready, willing, and able. Let God give you the words to say in the situation. You pass that on. Hopefully you guys have a bond, a friendship, a reconciliation, amendment maybe being made. And then your impact on that person's life was God-given. You said what He wanted you to say for the most part. And then hopefully they go on to be like, man, guess who I ran into the other day? I saw Trav at Casey's. Man, he told me some stuff, and I'm like, what? You been doing what? What's this group, God-Based Recovery, on Facebook? Almost 19,000 members in a year. Live testimonies. Recovery meetings on Zoom every night, except for Fridays, a Bible study at 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday nights. And the Zoom meetings are called what? Fellowship Discovery Recovery meetings, because they're all recovering from something. 6 p.m. Central every night. I got to check one of these out. How good could these meetings be? Fellowship Discovery, that's pretty awesome. You're not chasing recovery. You're walking with Christ, and you're on the path of self-discovery. You want to find out who you are meant to be without drugs and alcohol and all that past. Man, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't really want to recover the same feelings and emotions and thoughts that got me to do the drugs and the alcohol in the first place. Yeah, I relapsed 9 times. So all the old feelings come back, and it just kind of set me back out there. So, I can find out and figure out and realize and accept who I'm made to be without all that stuff in God's image. What His plan and purpose is for me, not just my own stuff. All right, fellowship discovery, recovery meetings, because we're recovering. Everybody's recovering from something more than just drugs and alcohol. What's after that? So you got a year clean and sober. Awesome. Now what? There's got to be more stuff to work on. We got to work on the things to get them healed and removed so we don't use them as excuses to go back out. It's discovery over recovery. There is no such thing as recovery anymore. Recovery from addiction is over with. It's done. Addictions are the devil's work. Addiction is a stronghold of the devil. It can only be conquered with the power and the love and the grace of God. God is recovery. And once you realize that, you are on the road of discovery. We each, every single person that's going to watch this, has I'm telling you this is a fact, has a specific and unique and genuine purpose and calling and talent and gift in your life that God has designed and programmed into you. If we're all made in His image, then we have great things that we can do. Not for our glory, for His. Not for validation, but for the possibility of healing somebody else. Recovered addicts, the community, and I'm talking worldwide. If there's 6 billion people in this world, I guarantee it, at least half of that 6 billion have been addicts or in recovery, recovered, have surrendered their will and their life over to God, or no family members or friends that are addicted. So probably, I'd say 4.5 billion out of 6 billion people have been affected by addiction in some way. And here's something. The recovered, the recovery community, the sober-minded, the surrendered, the former addicts will be the last great revival in this world. The addicts are the remnant. We have seen the devil. We have been at hell's doorstep. We have made it back. Some don't. That's life. You have to be able to accept that too. Not as easy as it said. But we keep moving forward. And we honor the people that we lose along the way by telling other people about the best parts of them that we loved. We don't let the loss of the ones we love start to make us hate ourselves. We tell people about how great they were, the potential they could have had. And then we realize how fortunate and blessed we are along the way, because by the grace of God, that could have been me. But it's not today. The greatest blessing of every day is when you wake up. Even before your feet hit the floor, before you get a sip of coffee in you, you are blessed as you awake every day. Because you never know what day it'll be when these things, these light bulbs, these aha moments go off and you're like, I'm meant for more than this. We are. And the ones we lost were meant for more than it too, but they unfortunately didn't get to come with us. But what we do is we keep marching forward, and we keep trying to provide and tell other people about what they needed and what they could have gotten, but just it's out of our hands. We got to let God do that work. He's got specific plans and purposes for the living and the dead. We do our parts while we're here. If we mourn somebody too long, we're going to lose the ones that are still here. So this is just stuff that comes to mind that I like to share with you. I don't know how many people's going to be able to see this, but just know this. When I get on these videos, and I haven't made a YouTube video for quite a while, but I just really want to invite everybody that gets to see this on YouTube, to God-Based Recovery Facebook group. Type it in. It's got a silver back cover with the cross, and said growing closer to God in addiction or recovery. In recovery. And please join us. Please check the group out. I can't guarantee you or promise, but I could say if you hang around long enough and you see some posts and some stuff that's in there and some testimonies and stuff like this, you'll find something that just clicks and resonates with you, and you'll want to be a part of it. And not just a part of it, but stand out and share out what's helped you, so that could help somebody else, that we can meet, we can fellowship, we can bond, we can strengthen each other for God's kingdom. That's what it's all about. If you got a story to share, if you've got one heck of a past, a heck of a childhood, whatever, if you got a testimony, as everybody does, maybe we'll talk, and maybe you'll be the next one to share it out and do it live on the spot and share that with everybody and help everybody else have a chance to heal like God's given you. And come into one of the meetings we have every night. Check these meetings out. Yeah, they're on Zoom, but they're awesome. I think they're better than in-person meetings because you can sit there and chat. You can chat like this. Do the Newsom. I gotta stop doing that. Deb's gonna kill me. And chat with other people while one person is sharing or talking. You can communicate and chat and connect with other people while you're hearing what they're sharing too, instead of just sitting there being quiet, for the hour. And you go, and these meetings go for 2.5 to almost 3 hours every night. So if you're late, if it starts at 6 and you don't get home from 7, come on in there at 7. Heck, come on in there at 8. You'll get at least probably 45 minutes of a meeting. And they're incredible. They're amazing. Check them out for yourself. Even if you're skeptical a little bit, come on in. Get the Zoom. We have a post with the Zoom link with the ID number. Looks like a phone number that's in the link that you type in or copy to join meeting on Zoom. And we're there every night at 6 p.m. No, nothing on Fridays. Mostly on the spots on Fridays. Bible study on Wednesday nights at 7. So that's about it. Thanks for letting me talk this morning and share that word with you. If anybody sees this later on, any closer? I'm Trav, and I'm a Christ addict, and I got a group called God-Based Recovery on Facebook. Come check us out. The link is in the title, and I'd love to see you there. And if you do come into the group, let me know if you've seen the video, and if there's anything in here that makes sense to you and you think would help somebody else, share it out. Appreciate you all. Until then, stay blessed, but God-based.